All right, so building the next billion-dollar restaurant brand is what every entrepreneur in the country is trying to figure out. And of course, with today's industry, we're going to see a lot of people try their best to do this. My name is Paul Barron. This is the Barron Report. Today, this is a Market Movers session, which is really where I start to break down how brands are performing and maybe how they could perform. So a lot of the data that I compile in the Market Movers, some of it is based on historical data that I get through analysis. Some of it is based on analytics and or estimates that I'm looking at based on my knowledge in the industry and where it's going. So with that being said, before we get started today and before I tell you who this billion-dollar brand could be, make sure and visit fastcasualglobal.com. This is our new group and organization, but it also is a great place to find peers that are in the fast casual business that are really growing the restaurant industry in a very unique and different way, what could be kind of the evolution of where the restaurant industry is going to go. It's a definite great place to start. And of course, don't forget, while you're there, register for our Fast Casual Global event, which is coming up very soon. And we're going to continue those throughout the year. So if you've registered, missed one and you got it on demand, don't worry, we're going to have some more that are coming on throughout the year. So stay tuned right there at fastcasualglobal.com. Let's jump into the concept here for the Market Mover today, and that is MrBeast. Now, MrBeast is and has been a YouTube sensation that most everybody kind of has recognized, at least anybody under the age of 30 probably knows who MrBeast is and kind of his whole mission. If you look at the number of what they have been doing, they've opened 300 restaurants nationwide, immediately places MrBeast as basically a considerable contender in the food chain industry compared to Shake Shack, which is only nearing 300 outlets, and In-N-Out Burger, which is approaching 400. Now, the way that they did this is kind of interesting. They basically partnered with a handful of multi-unit chains to essentially get the product out there and opened a handful of brick and mortars. And the whole idea is they're still using third party as the primary marketplace engine to kind of grow a virtual brand, which is what every virtual brand in the business is out there. But they also use the benefit of their app. And of course, when you look at that, shortly after it was launched, their app, MrBeast Burger app, was the most downloaded app on iTunes and Google Play, becoming one of the top 5 most popular in Google searches. This is a very interesting thing when you look at companies who spend tens of millions of dollars trying to put their app in these particular platforms for online ordering, because essentially this has become the new mechanical element of the restaurant industry to gain new customers when you're not utilizing third parties like Uber Eats or Grubhub or et cetera. So you've got to have that component. What's happened with MrBeast, if you look at kind of this next slide here, it kind of shows a little about kind of how this guy got moving and why I think this is a very interesting play by MrBeast. And if you look at their estimated earnings of 24 million, basically from YouTube views, over 3 billion views. MrBeast is the second highest paid YouTuber in the world. I think PewDiePie is still number 1. His videos are basically kind of a mix of, if you haven't had a chance to watch them, they're absolutely hilarious. I've watched them for years and it's always fun. And his overall mission is basically to do good and to help those in need. So he's always got some kind of angle on how that can work, and it usually involves a stack of cash. In this particular case, what they did was they decided to open a restaurant to give away free food. And that was essentially the sensational element that kind of launched the birth of what would be MrBeast Burgers, and now has become what could be a virtual brand phenomenon that could become a reality in terms of growth and how it could actually pace with some of the brick and mortar superstars in the burger category. I want to show you this and why I think this particular move by this particular YouTuber is one where Donaldson is trying to essentially jump off the platform. If you look at his number of views right here, 43.9 million total views. This was based on the video that was put out on December 19, 2020, that essentially was basically he opened a restaurant and I'm giving away free food. So that was kind of the concept of MrBeast, and he's going to pay you to eat there basically. So he's giving out cash and he's giving away food. That began the promotional aspect, what was once maybe a stunt that is like all of the videos that he's promoted and done over the years, and maybe now has actually turned into a business. When you look at the market driver data, basically just to give you guys an understanding here, I've spent about 20 years in analyzing restaurant brands, looking at how revenue is generated based on different kind of influential factors. And social media has been one that I use through Foodable Labs. We look at transaction counts to try to extrapolate what a brand could be doing in terms of frequency, loyalty, those kind of things. Obviously, you can calculate sentiment fairly easy in these kinds of data platforms. So that's kind of what we've done here, because there's no posted data on sales by MrBeast. So this is something that I'm putting my years of experience on to kind of analyze what this company could be doing in terms of revenue. And when you look at 300 units and where this potential is, based on the fact that Donaldson has such a massive following on YouTube and an absolute viral capacity to get this into mainstream media, there is a real opportunity for this to be one of the biggest virtual brands that has yet to be done. Now, I know there's others, and even my own team here said, hey, well, what about Guy Fieri's virtual brand? What about some of the virtual brands that are being launched by major chains? I still think when you look at the idea of basically attention, if you look at the scope of where society is today, attention really matters. And for someone to be able to take what MrBeast has done throughout the years is he gains that attention. He's pointed that attention bazooka at a burger brand. And this burger brand, I think for based on what their moves in, obviously they partnered with the virtual dining group out of Orlando, which essentially kind of helped them build this brand, along with companies. They also helped build Pauly D Subs and also Mario Tortes Lopez. All of those virtual brands are utilizing the power of these celebrities, but MrBeast is a different kind of beast. He in himself and what he's done with YouTube, I think, is the difference in the factor here of how this brand could grow. Back to the numbers. If this brand moves at the pace in which I think it could, they could average around $290,000 in 2021 per unit in total sales. That's if he decides he wants to be in the restaurant business and he really wants to grow this and actually get some operators in there to grow the brand. You leverage that with what he's doing on his YouTube channel, which becomes basically a commercial engine for him. And if he continues to leverage that against that humanitarian effort, this becomes very big, very quick. In 2022, this could jump to around 325,000, 324. By 2023, we could see maybe close to the $500,000 range on an AUV. Now, if you think about the industry, a $400,000 restaurant is not, it's not sustainable unless you're running a business that, at least as a standalone, unless you're running a business that has very low rent, very few employees, a $400,000 restaurant is almost not worth your time. But a virtual brand who lives inside other units, which is what the strategy that MrBeast has employed, that's got legs. That's got an opportunity because they are not paying the kind of infrastructure in place. They are working basically all on digital and strategically on how they're marketing the product, as opposed to the infrastructure that you have to actually have a restaurant in place. Now let's look at the unit growth that could happen. So if he partners with a handful of other multi-unit concepts, let's just say, the next 25 top casual dining concepts out there that are looking for revenue implementation into their brand and also kind of pairing up with certain companies. And he drops a kitchen into those 25 concepts. That potentially is opening up another almost 15,000 locations that he could literally go and light up based on capacity of him operationally moving in that direction. So let's assume that's not going to happen, and we're going to do it in a very structured and somewhat strategic way. So going from 300, which is what his claim is today for the number of MrBeast locations that you can get to, and moving that into 425 locations next year and about 575 locations by 2023. This could become a brand that is a real deal. And if he partners with the right operators, the right kind of people to run the operations, because from a marketing standpoint, and this is something I've said time in and time out, is a virtual brand will die if it does not have a third-party marketplace. If you don't have a third-party marketplace like Uber or Grubhub or those guys who are spending hundreds of millions a year in marketing to the consumer, it's very difficult for you to move. MrBeast is different. He already has the consumer. He already has the hundreds of millions of people that know who he is, and he's utilizing a platform that's used by billions of people that is even more in terms of strength and reach than what an Uber or Grubhub or any of the third-party platforms could ever present. So that alone really kind of jumps it to a next level in terms of how this company could grow. He could have a product here that could be a magnitude of 10 to his YouTube channel. So I want to go also and look at the sentiment numbers here, because this is kind of interesting when you look at how this company compares to major brands that have spent hundreds of millions, if not close to $1 billion in developing their businesses. You look at a company like Shake Shack, their sentiment rating is 84.2. This was their January sentiment. BurgerFi, 85.6. In-N-Out, 87.1. These are good sentiment numbers because it's on a 1 to 100. It's how people talk about your brand. The one thing that's kind of interesting about MrBeast is his sentiment's not great. And I should tell you, the burger product is not a great product, but they're in the very incubator period of building this brand. It's going to change. It's going to get better. I think it's going to start to grow. And they're also, I think, going to solve this and utilize it to really kind of amplify the brand. Because when you look at how the brand is interfacing with consumers on social media, even when the product comes in bad, people don't care, because they're basically supporting a humanitarian effort, and that changes the way a consumer looks at something versus the way a consumer looks at something if your Shake Shack came in and the fries were cold or the burger was soggy. Those kind of things hurt your brand. And this guy, MrBeast, the burger concept, could have a lot more leeway than traditional restaurant brands. And that in itself, I think, is going to be some science that I want to continue to really monitor, because I think this is a very unique social experiment that could blow up in a very good way for Donaldson, which I think is going to be more of a restaurant operator in the future than he will be a YouTuber. Let's run to the last slide here, and this is kind of breaking down kind of the problem and the potential of where this brand is going. Frequency, MrBeast, we're estimating around 2.7 times a month. Shake Shack, this is their frequency numbers over the last 60 days, and that's about 3.9, 3.7 on 60, that's 30-60. 3.9, 3.2 on BurgerFi, and then In-N-Out about 4.1, 4.2 holding. So these frequencies hold really strong with these brick and mortar brands. So if MrBeast can lift up to a frequency number and stay at his AUV estimate, I want you to look at the numbers here. In 2021, his AUV estimated at my estimate at around 290,000, and that's if he runs this like a regular virtual restaurant brand. With the power of his marketing engine, that gets him to around 87 million in revenue. Now you take 22, you got 300 or 550 units at about 324,000. Now you're jumping up to 178 million in revenue, and then boom, in maybe by 2023 he gets to 800 units. That's 418,000 in average unit volume, which is it's well within a capacity within a virtual brand to do this. Now you're at 334 million in revenue. And even if you just look at a 3x multiple on, and believe me, there are many brands out there that are doing 5 to 10x multiples of revenue as their valuation. MrBeast, a virtual brand that started in December of 2019, within 3 years could be worth literally $1 billion. Now, this is all speculation. Who am I? I'm just a joker on YouTube. Who knows if this is going to happen? But I do put a lot of experience behind this, of understanding the restaurant industry and brands and consumers and how all this works together. And I think that MrBeast is onto something very, very interesting. Now, will this apply to other concepts and other brands as they start to blow up, or will we see a whole new crop of influencers become brand leaders in all sorts of different kinds of direct-to-consumer products? That's going to be a question I think that a lot of YouTubers and a lot of influencers on Instagram and even TikTok are going to really need to start to take a look at, because there's a big opportunity here of doing something of what I've talked to many people here, even in our own studio, about, and that is jumping off the platform. And there's a handful of people that have been able to do this. When you look at some of the YouTube stars that have been able to take what they've done from a YouTube audience and basically 10x it into the next level, no pun intended, to Grant Cardone, who is one of those who has done that. They've been able to leap off of the platform and eventually form basically a whole new business model based and built on the back of what was a YouTube channel and basically an education platform. And I think that for MrBeast and many of those kinds of influencers, this is a vertical opportunity that could really put a lot of these players out there. And I mean, no matter who you look at, whether you look at politics, there are pundits out there on YouTube that are escalating. Most likely they're either moving into politics, or maybe they're moving into brand development or movie making. Then you got guys like Grant Cardone in the real estate industry has really kind of just jumped off the shark in terms of conferences and education and training, and then developing his own fund. So you can kind of see where this is going. And with Donaldson as MrBeast and what his effort is on how this could grow for him, a restaurant brand is a very good opportunity to become very philanthropic, because it's doing something that a lot of underserved communities could use. And that is, if you could start to actually offer free food, do all those humanitarian efforts, and grow the business at the same time, it's a win-win. So this is going to be very fun to watch. We're going to continue doing our market mover episodes here. I'll continue to analyze more brands and different concepts that are in the industry and really kind of growing at a very unusual and different kind of methodology than what we've seen really in business over the past decade. I think we are in for a very different future, and it's going to involve a lot of different strategies. So stay tuned right here on the Barron Report. And of course, if you have some great ideas in terms of someone that you might like on the show, send us an email to producer@foodabletv.com. Always hit me up on Twitter @PaulBarron, and make sure and subscribe right here. Make sure and hit the bells, because you're going to need to get notifications of when we put up new content. Sometimes that doesn't necessarily work the right way on YouTube, but it is something that we are trying to improve on. And of course, follow some of our other shows right here on the network, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Barron Report.